Hello everyone, welcome back to Animaniaugust. This time we get to week 4, and for the first time there's only 4 episodes this week instead of the usual 5. So, without further ado, let's go to the show with episode 16. The first segment is Chalkboard Bungle, and I gotta say, this one is a very hilarious segment. It is about the Animaniacs getting a teacher so they can be educated and under control. There's a lot of good jokes in here, like the rules list, the conjugate with me, the joke about Coke versus Pepsi, the the find your seat joke, the just in especially the teacher drawing F's on everybody's head. Honestly, this is a very hilarious segment, and I definitely recommend it. Next up is Hooray for Slappy. This is Slappy goes to an award show in her honor, but her old arch rivals, Walter the Wolf, Sid the Squid, and Beanie the Brain-Dead Bison are all there to ruin her ceremony. But because Slappy is Slappy, she manages to outsmart him. This this short is definitely hilarious, and definitely one of the better Slappy shorts in my opinion. I like it. The Great Wackarati, mastering his music. This this is Wacko Warner belching out the Blue the Noob. That's basically all it is. It's stupid, but it works. Next up, get to episode 17. We finally, at last, get our first good idea, bad idea segment. Good idea. Playing a piccolo in a marching band. Bad idea. Playing a piano in a marching band. Roll over Beethoven. The waters are chimney sweeps. Go over to the house of Wayward Man Beethoven, which is typically composed as Fifth Symphony. This one is another very, very great historical segment. The Warners, of course, the chemistry works here. There's a lot of great jokes, like the joke about how they're union, so they haven't started yet, or or the joke about are you deaf? And then Beethoven says he's deaf because he's deaf. And of course, especially that pianist joke. I really like all the jokes of this one. They're all really good classics. They're classic jokes. They're just Animaniacs jokes at their Animaniest. And I highly recommend this one. And as a fun fact, Beethoven's depiction of Animaniacs would reappear later on in the story episode Music. Anyway, the second bad idea is good idea. Frag stray kids to the park. Bad idea. Feeding stray kids to the park to a bear. Next up is the Cat and the Fiddle. This is about Rita and Ruck going through Italy and entering a village shop. And this is a pun on the name catgut, which is a fiber found in the walls of the intestines of animals. But catgut strings are never made from cats, and are usually made from sheep or goats. So that's interesting. Although this segment is definitely decent. Now we get to episode 18. The first episode with really an overarching theme. In this case, it's Russian culture. This first segment is Pavlov's Mice. In Russia in 1904, Pinky the Brain attempted to steal the Tsar's crown so they could take over Russia. This is Pinky the Brain segment. Honestly, Taking the break just works. I mean, honestly, it just works. Almost itty peaky the break was just good, but you know, you really just have to watch them to know why they're good. I can't just explain. Chicken Boo Rachel. This is the first ever Chicken Boo segment, where he discusses as a ballet dancer. The intro is notably slightly different compared to later ones. A Brady Bunch style shot of Boo's disguises is shown, rather than Chicken Boo looking in a mirror. And it's also notably lacking the "he's a chicken, I tell you, a giant chicken" guy. All in all, it's a great start to Chicken Boo, which is definitely a neat concept. I really like it. It definitely does actually work in execution, because a chicken just taking on roles and nobody buying it until something becomes obvious. It's really just the extension of the idea of the bugs as disguises, but just make it the main plot instead of just a mere gag. The tower return gag. The Warners escape from the water tower via Sky Gondola. It. I have no clue why it wasn't shown at the beginning of the episode, but I assume it's because the previous exhibits don't really feature the Warners. So I guess this makes sense. Nothing but the tooth. This this involves them at a Russian dentist, and honestly, it's a I don't really remember this one that much, but yeah, it's fine. And then the wheel morality. The moral of the story is brush your teeth after every meal. The moral brought to you by the American Dental Association and the Jason. This one involves a magic carpet, which is kind of more associated with Arabia than Russia, but okay. It just doesn't need to make sense. I mean, they're animes. Finally, episode 19. Meatballs and consequences. Before we get to that, though, the face slide is where's Lon Chaney? Lon Chaney Jr. was an American actor known for playing Larry Talbot in The Wolfman. It's very crosswords. Count Alucard, which is Dracula spelled backwards, is Son of Dracula, Frankenstein's monster in The Ghost of Frankenstein in 1942, The Mummy in Three Pictures, and various other roles in Universal horror films. In this case, Wacko is disguised as the Hunchback of Notre Dame, whom he portrayed in the film, who he portrayed in the 1949 adaptation. In fact, his dad played Quasimodo as well in a 1923 silent film that also was an adaptation of Hunchback of Notre Dame. Now I get the Meatballs and Consequences. This is one of the earliest segments ever made. Apparently. And is one of the very few segments that is animated entirely within the United States. In this case, by Chicago-based Startoons. There's a lot of great gags, like the entire "Can we watch the adult channel? Hello, nurse!" or Wacko eating stuff, which was originally intended to be a running gag, but was quickly just discontinued. And it's, you know, And so the Warners. Wacko Warner dies after eating a at an eating competition in Sweden. So Death himself materializes in front and slaps a sticker red kaput on Wacko's hat. And Wacko Dog eventually convinces Death for them to come along. You know we get, but it's a really funny segment. And then we get to Dot's Poetry Corner, which is Little Miss Buffett. This is actually the first time we see Dot's Poetry Corner. And all these segments are animated by Freelance Animation in New Zealand. The same segment that animated the infamous 1992. Although in this case, these segments look a little bit better. It's mainly due to the fact they're shorter. I only get to a moving experience. Oh boy. This is the second Hip Hippos cartoon, but was the first produced. In production order, again, this was one of the first things to be produced. And honestly, the Hippos moved away from the jungle to the city. This is basically a backstory, and honestly, the Hip Hippos just, again, never really worked as the characters. They just, honestly, never worked as characters. Well, that about wraps up this specific episode of Animaniaugust. Honestly, 4 days instead of 5 a week. It really surprising. I guess it is before Columbus Day weekend. They couldn't make any real. They got preempted. By something else, or something like that. Or there was a rerun of a previous episode. But oh no, this is why I made this episode shorter. Yeah, there's a lot of episodes that have dead runtime at the end, but here I can justify 15 minutes without just expanding with just blank text, because here there's a good excuse, a very good excuse. For instance, in 5 in this case. Honestly, the show now is pretty well established in its formula. Almost all the characters and gags have been introduced. But really, this is what I consider the general season of Animaniacs. Starting for week 5, there's going to be more experimentation with the formula. The training wheels are going to be off, and well, I'll see you tomorrow for another episode of Animaniaugust.